Welcome back to Pianoturtle. There's one thing about the first section that I want to talk about, and that has to do with the un-limited mentality. The very opening, and then the next chord right here in the left hand is a 10th. But the 10th is sharped, and that is a position that I cannot reach. Notice how flat my pinky is. So if I press it down, this one's okay. My thumb's flesh would touch a little bit of the C, and it goes down just slightly, but not enough to trigger the sensor to cause a sound to be made. But here, you see, definitely it causes the B to go down with it, as I cannot curve my pinky, right? All right, so I have to do this. That's fine, except that the pedaling is tricky now. Listen to this. I don't want to let this voice go, but I have to hit the A, so where do I put the pedal? That causes a blur. I don't like the blur. So, and then I change the pedal on the A, but then the voice disappears. That is the better way to do it. Ultimately, one day, recently, I just thought, maybe if I could just work with this. It definitely was a maybe. And I want to see how much I can curve my pinky so that it hits the B partially down, but not so far that it triggers the sensor. Okay? So let's see what happens. There you go. It needs to go down about that much. And that, it happened. It happened because I want it to happen. I did not cave into my hand size limitation. And then if I wanted to see how many times I can do it in a row, I need to pass at least 5 out of 10 tries for it to be considered a legit technique. And I'm happy to say I can get at least 9 out of 10 most of the time after practicing it for about 30 or 40 so times. On a grand piano, it's even easier because the hammers will not all go all the way up. It will never hit. I'm very happy about that. That was the idea of undoing a limitation. In this case, it's hand size. Yep, and when I perform it, I'm really confident that I can actually do it on any piano. Moving on. That's it. That's the entire melody. Theoretically, it's a lot simpler. Tonic, dominant, back to tonic. This is not like the introduction, where the melody continues and continues and continues and hangs around in the dominant, but in a foreign key. It's very short. I'm thinking, this version happened first in the composer's mind. By the way, this motif right here is related to a melody in the third movement of his second concerto. It might be a stretch to say that, but the C major treatment of it. Right? Now compared to that, compared to this. It's exactly the same. Wow, he took a part of a melody and made a brand new theme out of it, from second concerto to the third. Yeah, it's not far-fetched to think that one can make an entire new melody out of just 3-4 notes, as I improvise with 2-3 notes quite often. Right? But today, because of the simplicity of the theory, I thought I might take a chance to discover technique a little more. In the demonstration you just saw, you saw my alternate fingering. All right? It's not what is written. So I will now play for you what is written and then slow it down a little bit and show you the alternate fingering and why I chose to do it. The way it's written is you cross over. All right. I probably never told you this, but I actually have a defect with my wrist. Every time this kind of movement happens, my wrist clicks. It's not a smooth rotation. So when I play pieces like that, where even scales, I must do it the proper way and not rotate. But sometimes with difficulty of pieces, I have no choice but to, rotate. Every time a movement like that happens in any given piece, I feel it. Look. You see that? Right there. It kind of just goes into a different position altogether, and this is with both hands. So I actually have a physical defect. I try not to let it bother me through whatever I play. Whenever I can, so I just do it with the left hand. The benefit of that is I can control the pressure. There's a crescendo and a diminuendo right there. This versus, it's easier to do the dynamics, so there is benefit to it. Here's another one where what's written is this. Okay, that causes a problem too with the wrist. And it might be also a problem for, those with smaller hands. Right? That is pretty big. Always play loose and flexible and relaxed, but sometimes you have no choice. Because if you play too relaxed, it sounds too separate. You're not going to get this flowing. That's a good one. That's another good one. But you do have to jump your left hand to grab that note and then jump back. Thank goodness it's a slow movement. So here's what I think of methodology. All methods have limits. All. Even if I don't know the limit, I can assume safely that it does have a limit somewhere in some context. But with that said, then that means all limits can be undone. Aim to be undone. Un-limited. Now, that attitude is essential for piano transcription. All methods have limitation, and all limitation can be undone in some way, and most of the time, it's a combination of methodology, a combination of methods and strategies that makes the passage work. Now here comes another one. Grabbing that note way up high, I thought maybe I could just... Notice how little I move. The less I move, the more comfortable physically it is. The way it's written is the left hand play all these non-stop triplets. Non-stop. The limitation is if you stop it, mentally you're going to have to specifically remember which note not to play and which note to be grabbed by the right hand. Now that might be in itself a challenge. Physical comfort adds complication to mental complexity, right? Well, in a piece like this, I don't think there's such thing as easy. But because performing is a, in its final form, a physical act, portraying a mental act, I would like to solve more so the physical challenges. Because if I play it more times, mentally I will remember. So my recommendation leans towards being okay with mental complexity, but not so much okay with physical difficulty. Okay, so that's why I will end up playing an alternate version, and I don't believe that is cheating and not going according to the script. Moving on. Again, it could be done this way. Look at that. Just for one note, you have to reach all the way in there, hide the visual of your thumb. I don't even see my thumb. You can't go underneath. That doesn't work, right? So there's danger right there. Well, my second finger's right there. Instead of, I could just do hardly moving at all. A thumb extension, that's not a problem. Every person that types knows how to do that. Before I move on, I wanted to express that this is the reason why I ultimately did not choose to learn the entire thing, perform it once, and then record a voiceover on top of that and say, hey, look here, this is what I did. Hey, look there, this is what I did. That is too fast, and it does not explain anything. I will do both. Ultimately, I will perform this movement and then do a commentary on it. That will come later. But for some, this little discussion on technique and choice of fingering, hopefully it is helpful. You see, here's another issue. Here's another one. Instead of this, under, over, whichever is more comfortable. Well, how about not even have to deal with it right here? Grab the F with the right hand. There's no crescendo written in diminuendo, but I kind of like to do it. And then finally, this passage here, the way it's written is all for the right hand alone. So here we go. Repeat. Repeat. Now here, the hand position goes from, which is small, right? And then all of a sudden big. And then small again, repeat. You only need to learn the first passage. The rest is repeating. Momentum. If I switch from small to big, depending on how fast I'm playing, kind of like driving a car real fast and hitting the brakes, it's really hard to make those turns because I like to go pretty fast here. You know, it says veloce, with velocity. Okay, you saw that I made it that time, but I felt danger right there. Now, look at this. That almost guarantees it because I never leave a small hand position. Much more simple and much more relaxed. And then finally, the octaves. Marcato. Now that's a lot of work for the left hand. So here, using a trick later that Rachmaninoff himself uses in the third movement, well, in the introduction to the third movement. See? The only issue is you have to lean a little bit because we're playing at the bottom. Another thing you can do, which is kind of more transcription style. Grab some with the right hand. That almost sounds the same, even though I deleted a couple of notes. And then finally, to even be a little more free with the transcription, that is the actually, that to me actually is the most marcato of all treatments. And Rachmaninoff wrote the word marcato, right? With some force, you gotta play it. I will play it the original way, but I just wanted to show you that there are ultimate treatments, and some of it does go off the page a little bit. Musicality. What is this? Why did Rachmaninoff simplify the theme? First of all, I think this theme came first, but the way he did it in the intro is so long, 2 pages worth of continuous melody, right? But then here, it's only 7 measures. It's asymmetrical. It's not 7. It's not 8 measures. It's 7. Why did he? Well, because if he did 2 pages for each variation, this movement would not be an intermezzo. So he knew that the piece needed to be reduced in terms of length, and he just chose the bare bone melody itself. That's it. That's the melody, and then he extends it by adding kind of a transitional part. Going from D flat tonic to D flat dominant, giving you that dominant hanging around feeling until he reaches, and right before that it's the until the trill. Very peaceful, the first variation. Okay, today's episode, peaceful. Musically, I think he settled into a new life, or physically went to a new village, where he left his old world behind, old village behind, where he had that huge battle and all this emotional, stress and, right, turmoil. And so he left, and he found this new place. And I believe this first theme represents that. And it mirrors my own life. I'm going through, quite a few transitions. So I think it is the right time to do this episode. Uncertain times in transition. Just the fact that it is theme and variation. By the way, it's a hybrid theme and variation form. It's not the traditional where you have the theme and you have many multiple treatments. This hybrid theme and variation allows other things. Quotation, development, cadenzas, codas. It allows all of that. Okay, as we will see in the sections to come in future episodes.